Hello, my name is Wolfram Müller. I'm the founder of Blue Dolphin. We are a community of people around the world who supports companies or organizations that want to be hyper-productive. And we reach this by using self-organization and ideas out of theory of constraints. And the most important thing, if you want to be hyper-productive, you have to get into flow. And that's a very important precondition. And to get into flow, you have to get your work in progress under control. And therefore, we use this concept called constraint. So the first thing is you have to identify the constraint, and then you don't have to under and overload it, and then everything else is happening quite well. So that's a precondition. You can do this with any kind of professional multi-project management, but very often they do not have a suitable one. But the data is there in Excel, therefore we programmed in Excel, the SmartPipeliner. There are a lot of tutorials about this. And in this tutorial, I don't want to show you all the details how to use it, but more how to use it on real data. So we have anonymous data from a real company. It's an insurance company, a smaller one. And they are from the IT department. And the challenge was to get into flow, of course. So I can show you step by step with real data how to do this staggering. So, and therefore I just go into the Excel files and show it to you directly in the SmartPipeliner. I just share the screen, and now you see the SmartPipeliner in the current version. Here are links to the tutorial on YouTube, different tutorials to show different aspects. And of course, it's Creative Commons, so you can use it for your business without any regards of licenses and stuff. So, and if you really want to detect the constraint, then you first have to define the teams or the skill list. So the capacity of your teams. And regardless whether you're agile or classic, you have teams, either product teams, value streams, or feature teams, or functional teams, I don't care. So typically you go through the list of your teams and define the list. So you have IDs, you have names, you have responsible persons. And what we are interested in is, of course, the average load and the aggregated load. So that is the information we need to detect the constraint. But first of all, we need the capacity of the teams. So there's a very simple and more detailed capacity model, more in the other tutorials. But here we use the simple one because that's absolutely enough. And the model is something around that. You go in the team, you write down all the names and look how many percent of their role is for projects. So very often you just look at the FTE, the full-time equivalents. In this case, there were some part-time people in. So in the end, they are just 10.7 at the desk. And from the time at the desk, they were 15% on daily business, incidents, tickets, whatever stuff, meetings. So 85% of this 10.7 are really for projects, initiatives. And then you simply have to add the number of person days per month or working days per month, and then you have the capacity. For the working days per month, we typically use 205 working days per year divided by 12. This depends a little on the country you are in and on the bank holidays and stuff like this, but that's absolutely enough. So in this case, this is an internal team. So 10.7 multiplied with 85% multiplied with 17 days. That is the capacity of the development. Here you see some 100 project quotas that are teams that are not within your realm, so within your domain. So they are just capacities that are bought from outside. So for examples, risk management. So you have contracted 0.2 FTEs from them, and then it makes no sense to have a project quota because all the time you have negotiated with them is available for you, and the product development is within their domain. They can decide. So there's also a 85%. So and that's it more or less. In the capacity data sheet, you see exactly this: 17 days, 85%, 10.7 FTEs equals 156 person days per month. So that's it. Now you have the team list, you have the capacity, and the next thing is, of course, you have to write down your project list. And this project list is already more or less sorted by importance. So here are the project IDs and the names. And for each of this project, you need something like this: a project template. And that's not a Gantt diagram or a very detailed planning, but you need the person days of load roughly estimated per team, per project. But that's missing right now. But what they had in this case, out of the budgeting and the planning process, they have something like this. So you have a project, and for each project they had the needed capacity out of the teams. It was easy to determine in which month they need this. So here in the first 5 months, they need the development, and afterwards it's just more or less bug fixing. Same for PA and underwriting. So you have a rough feeling how the load is distributed on the teams on the project. And the SmartPipeliner has a simple, so very often you have the data in this format, the several projects with their footprint. We call it load footprint. And the SmartPipeliner has a nice function macro. It's a fourth macro. It's called generate or override project sheets from import. So it takes this list. Yes, there is a small bug, not a bug. I don't know exactly. You have to call it twice in the first time. So you just saw the Excel just took the data and built up these sheets for each project. So now you have the project list, the team list, and now you can generate the team balancing plan. We call it like this. So you see all the projects per team with their load per month. And you see, of course, the sum of all loads, the capacity, and you see the load, and you see already it's overloaded. Another important information is this aggregated overload. So you see in the first months, even in the first months, they are 7 days overloaded. In the second month, they are 9 days overloaded. So the work of undelivered work is piling up over the year. And the last figure means, okay, there are 180 days missing to deliver all what was requested. So, and that makes no sense. And you see the teams are overloaded. And if you now go back to the team list, you see the overloads, you see the aggregated overloads, and that's it more or less. Now, if you look at this, it's something around 1,160 overload at the end, person days missing. So the organization is overloaded, some teams are underloaded, but you exactly know that this won't work at all. So that's the first start. We call that the baseline. That is a normal situation you have. If you have the baseline, what's next? You can move around the project however you want. With such an overload, you have no chance. So the next thing, what you are doing is you go through the project list and really ask yourself whether the project is absolutely necessary or not. So, and the list is sorted by importance. So the project you really have to do because they are important for business, they get this activity level 0. And look at this, rebranding of the website, so new brochures. Okay, that's not absolutely necessary. Or privileged access management for board members. No, we don't need that. Decentralized data structures would be cool. Not necessary. So you go through this from top down, and in the end there should be more zeros, of course. And that's the first thing you do. And here you can decide what's in and out. So every project with a higher or equal activity level than this is in. So now everything is in, of course. But if you set this to 0 to 1, then just the activity level 1 is in. And you remember there was something around 1,160 days that could not be delivered. So you see still it's red. And in the team list, you see now it's less, 740, but it's not enough. But now deciding what not to do is already done, so you are a step further. What would be the next step? And that's interesting. Now you put away all the not so necessary stuff. So the first clean up, we call it, is done. And now the next thing is to think a little deeper. What is the real constraint? So I show the Excel again. It's the same, it's just a different, I just made some copies so that I'm always sure that I work on the right stuff. So just looking at the average loads is not enough. In this case, this department is dependent from satellite departments, and you have a little to look whether it's a real constraint or whether it's just a capacity missing due to wrong budgeting process or something like that. So to do this roadmap like planned, you have a demand and you have a capacity. And here, for example, the risk management. You have just budgeted a capacity of 0.2. And in reality, you need a 0.3. So the easiest way is to go back to them and ask for a tenth of a person more. So this can't be a constraint. And with the other teams here, the overloaded teams is more or less the same. But with development, and that's your internal team, you have this under control, you have a real problem. That's a real constraint. There are people missing. On the other teams, there are even some leftovers, but this is a real constraint. Therefore, what we did, we just put this on top because the constraint is always on top of the list. And now you can have a closer look to all the stuff. So we generate all the stuff. We already set a lot of projects to 0, but not enough. So now we have the constraint on top. And you already start to see it's still overloaded. And now you have to move projects around. So now you see a problem we see very often in the companies. We call it spaghetti projects, like this implementation data leakage, whatever. There is not, so a typical person has 17, 15 days per month capacity. So you see already that's not even one person working on this project. This router replacement is even worse. Just a part of a person is working on that, or this signature, whatever, blah blah blah. That's nothing. So very often the projects are just provided with capacity. We call it thin resource spreading. Because of the many projects, you'd never believe that you have all the projects, the resources. So you spread it very thinly, but you can move spaghettis right or left. It makes no sense. So one of the important things is to go through these lengthy projects that are understaffed and just have a look whether you can compress them. So I just take this process optimization. It would be cool to speed this up. So I go to the project list, and you go from top down typically and just check whether the projects are planned like we call it greenfield. So if you should plan them as if they are the only project in the company. So I just have to look where it is, process. So here's the process, and you see already, you can here click on the sheet, and now you're in, and now you see already the drama. So you have just 5 days planned per month. So the easiest way is to compress this. I just show it how you can do it. You typically call the team of course, and do it together. But I just want to show you a little how it works. So we are talking in the team, and they say, okay, yes. Instead of distributing this 15 days to 3 months, we can do it also in 1 month. One person, one developer focusing just on this project. Of course, he needs also the others. There's no capacity in. So if the developer focuses 3 months on one, then the others, of course, too. So and you already then this is next quarter, and next quarter, and then all the efforts should be there. And it should not change the effort, so it's 291 days, and above it should be the same. So we are not reducing the effort, but just compress it in a smaller timeline. So that's more or less. Then we can move this, of course, here together, because you don't have to pause in between. This 0 makes no sense. I just take the values because I want to copy it over the others. So I just insert values. So now it's numbers, and I can delete the stuff here above without losing information. Now I can move this new project above. And instead of working a year on this, it's just 4 months, a little more compressed, but nothing changed. So now go back. Now that's more easy to click here. Then you can go in the balancing sheet. So here see the process optimizations over the whole year. And if you regenerate it, of course, because we now changed the footprint, you see the process optimization is just 4 months long. And you do it with all the projects. Sometimes it's not possible to compress, but when you can compress it, just do it. So when I did it with the teams, of course, with all the others, so we went through the stuff. And now it looks like this. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Where is my Excel? So you see the process stuff compressed, and not every project, the semi-coded, was not able to compress because another department has not just the capacity as we needed. The cyber regulatory stuff was more or less something like dealing with incidents and smaller requirements from outside. So not everything can be compressed, but that's the case. But what was possible to compress here in the middle, there was a lot, or in the end, could be compressed. And then it's much easier to move them around. If you have spaghetti projects, so long projects with low portfolios, profiles, you can move them around, but it's not helping you work focused and delivering. So that's done. And what's next? Now you have the compressed projects, but the stuff is still overloaded. And now that's a moment of truth. It's all about bringing the projects in, or starting the projects in the right month so that the overload situation is going away. And the easiest way to do this, so the not active projects are put at the end. They are out of view. It's just the one. And the easiest way, and you won't believe me, but it's really easy. You just put here the first project, the most important project starts in January, and just put all the other projects at December so that they are not lost. And then just have a look what's happening. And now you have a very nice situation, of course. Just one project is loaded into the pipeline. You have here quite some capacity, but you have very, very, very many capacity left over. In December, no one is there anymore, so don't care about the projects here. So makes no sense. But you have a very important information. So in January, you have something around 140 days capacity left. So you just can look at the December and look how many projects will fit into the 140 days. So it's something around that. So these projects could all be started in January. Not nice. That means you can pull them 11 months to the left. Left means minus. So just write it there. And there's this button move. And now the start dates in the table are adjusted. And now you see that there are 145 days load capacity. You're not overloaded. That's already pretty good. And I would stay it like this or keep it like this because in the February you already have such an overload. So there's a slight overload, and in the March too. So it's 102%, 130. So that's somehow working. It's not red, it's yellow, but you already need April to get rid of the overload. So the first month you can restart projects is May. So and in May you have something around 20 days, 25 days. So you can go back on the right and 26 days, something around that. So these projects can be moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months in advance. So -7, -7, -7. And you already see how easy it's going. So that's staggering. So you just pull in the projects. Now we have here again an overload. And this overload is added here too. So it's a reload from 135. So something around 20, 25 can be pulled in. So maybe these to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here, something around 6, -6, -6, -6. Let's look whether I calculated right. So 4 days hangover. And now you know it's 130, 26 days. 26, that's something around that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah. So the next, and you see how easy staggering goes. So you just put everything at the end. So oh, there could be 5 more. No, it's more or less. That's okay. But here there are 15 missing. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4, -4, -4 can be pulled in. Perfect. So no overhang, perfect load. Another 20. -3, -3, -3, -3. So it should look good. Perfect. Well, and here you have some capacity. So -2, -2. That looks good. Even that can be pulled in. No problem. So we have 95% load. In the beginning, slightly overloads, but not long overhangs. Here you can already think about pulling some projects in, but I will keep it like this. And now you know why we call it staggering. It's like a staggered pipeline. It's one thing comes after another, focuses on finishing, and in the moment something is finishing, new stuff is started. So this is a well staggered pipeline. And the last check, of course, is the team list. And you will see, of course, the constraint is not overloaded anymore and everything's fine. And you already now see the next problem. There are still some overloaded teams, and we will look into this in the next slide. So, but you saw how easy and fast it was to decide about the projects. The order of the project can be discussed. You can move it around, but that's very easy. You can do it together in a room with all the responsible people. And we even did it for companies with 50,000 person days, 200 projects within a 3/4 of an hour. No problem to stagger, because if the data is there, if you identify the constraint, everything's fine. And most of the time it already looks like this. Quite nice. I don't know exactly whether I had the same staggering results. I did it a little different here, but in the end it's more or less the same. So the staggering is there, and the projects are it's 96%. So I did something different a little, but that's not very important. Very important is now that the development is not overloaded anymore, but there are some other teams that are still overloaded. And that's the next step to do, how to deal with that. Now you can postpone more projects, but that makes no sense because underwriting, climate finance, and risk management, they are not so heavily used, so it makes no sense to postpone very important projects just by very few capacities. So now just I have to check whether I had here the right data. Yes, it's right. So the Excel is exactly like I described. So here's the team list. And what you're now doing is, of course, okay, now you go to the underwriting team. You have a capacity of 0.8, but you need 1.2 to make this portfolio happen. So you go to them and negotiate something like, oh, I need plus 0.4 FTE more, and they say, of course, we don't want to kill your planning, so you now get 1.2 instead 1.8. So in the beginning, it looks underwriting, so we typically sort the constraint first and then the others, and you see 133. That's the overload. And now if with a new capacity, you can have a look, and it should be much better. So underwriting is Now here a little overloaded. Oh, there's 1 month, a little more, but that they can deal with it. So underwriting is no problem anymore. So now, of course, you have to go to the next. The claims capacity is missing. That's not so easy. So you need a little bit more, but you gave them a little money. So no, it's just 0.2 more. So the team leader of them just laughed and said, okay, no problem. You get the 0.6. Easy. And the same for what is finance. Finance, we're a little picky because it's the same 0.4, and then they think they are so expensive. But finance, 1.3, you got it negotiated, because you said, oh, I need less of these guys and I spend the money on you. And the next was risk management. Risk management, it's something around a plus of 0.1. No one really talked about this anymore. So now you have adjusted the capacities of the satellites. Well, that's of course talking with the others, but in the end, and now it looks like this. So IT is 96 load, and the others should be less. So 89, 93. That's maybe we need a little more from claims, but that's okay. 90%, and you already see that it's going down the numbers. So it's getting always easier. In some month there's the overload. But then you have to talk with them whether it's possible to have more in the beginning of the year and less in the end. And they said, yes, no problem, it equals out. So that's negotiation. And here in the team list, you already see that it's very well leveled out. And the only thing that's left over is top management. It's a little overloaded, but it's also okay if they sweat a little, so that's no big issue in this case. Very often here it's not top management, but it's architecture, business engineering, system engineers and stuff like this. So top management can be even more architecture and people, very creative people who decide what about how the concepts are, and they often decide whether the load is low and whether you have good ideas. So, and that's more or less the whole stuff. So now you have a balanced sheet. You have the projects terminated right. So the start month are right. And now you have the project end month, of course. And that's it. And I just wrote in parallel the original planning, and you see in most of the cases the project end month is not delayed. The urgent stuff is done very, very well, and just in the lower part we had to shift a little the project. So the harm to the projects is not so bad. Everything is done well. So that's it more or less. But I just showed you a little grumpy data. So I just look at the final sheet. So I did something not so well. Doing math live is always a little tricky. So I show you the final result with a customer. So, but it's not a structural. So we sorted here the teams, top management was overloaded 95 in the stuff, and maybe here I did the calculation right. Start offset. So just a few projects are really postponed. Oh yes, here you see it. Here I did the calculation, the delay. So most of the important projects are not delayed at all, and some of the not so important projects are delayed. and something around 4 months in medium. So the delay of the project is not so heavy, but now you have a situation that all the projects are possible to deliver. You have in the top management a little overload, but as I said, they can sweat some point in time. The constraint is perfectly loaded, and the satellite, they have sometimes a little overload, but you can deal with that. And the more you scroll down, the less overload and load you see. And that's it. So that was all about doing staggering. And it was not a joke. It does not take much longer. It's just if you have the data, and the data has not to be very accurate, by the way, you can do a staggering in a portfolio, even in complex portfolio, within 1 or 2 hours, 3 hours, if you have the data, if you take all the people together on a table. And then you can decide about the importance. You see directly when the start and the end dates are. You see the dependencies. You can talk about what is more important for a company. But the result in the end is always very simple. The constraint is not overloaded, so every of these due dates can be delivered. In more political organizations, the staggering is typically done by the delivery organization itself, based on the best knowledge they have. And then they show already a staggered portfolio. And then you simply go from top down and check whether your assumptions are right. So even then, if you have a political situation, it's very often very easy with a stakeholder to get an very fast same understanding about start and end dates and staggering. And sometimes they spend again some money for more capacity. Then you can model a ramp up, of course, not immediately. And it's very easy to pull new projects to the left. That's much easier and much easier to tell and talk about than to cancel projects when it's already late. So it's a very, very, very positive kind of dealing with your customer and your demand. So that's from my side. Thank you a lot for your time. It took a little more than expected, but in the end, if you think about portfolio management, it's still very, very fast and very simple. And the next positive and the last positive thing is if a new project comes in, it's very easy. Just set up a new sheet, put it in the end, look what other projects had to be postponed to meet the due date. Then it's very easy to decide. So all the trade-off decisions, it's getting very easy. So normally you just have this sheet, and if a new project comes in, you simply decide on facts. And what I learned is even top management in political critical situation is very rational if they have the data to decide. So that's my part, Blue Dolphin. You can have the SmartPipeliner for free. It's Creative Commons. You can use it. You can ask for help, but use it. It really helps you to get flow. And flow, as you know, is the first precondition to revoke the creativity of the people, the collaboration, working together, and that is hyper-productivity, all about learning and cooperation and creativity. So the SmartPipeliner is your key to hyper-productivity. Yeah, call us if you need help.